Chapter 1. What's the point? This video will introduce you to cybersecurity. This course will help you keep your business safe online. Nearly every business in the world has devices which connect to the internet, and the word cyber refers to any activity that happens online. If you have valuable information stored on devices that connect to the internet, then it's important for that information to be kept safe, private, and available to you when you need it. Unfortunately, cybercrime is no longer the stuff of big budget films or bad spy novels. Businesses of all sizes, all over the world, are being targeted more and more by criminals who want to get hold of important business information. If important information from your business fell into the wrong hands, the impact on your customers, your reputation, and your financial viability could be huge. As technology changes so quickly, we, as businesses of all size, need to keep up to stay safe. Cybercrime is a relatively new phenomenon, and so the technology around it isn't always as robust as we'd like it to be. Also, whether we like it or not, it's the law. With the introduction of GDPR, all businesses now have to keep personal information secure. That doesn't just apply to business owners. It applies to anyone who works in a business that stores information digitally. So, even if you have people that look after that stuff, it's important that you understand some of the fundamentals of cybersecurity so you can make informed decisions quickly as technology and the law continues to change. Chapter 2. Different names for cybersecurity. Depending on where you work, cybersecurity goes by different names. The most common name is information security, but some other companies will call it computer security. You might also hear network security, software security, or IT security, but in the grand scheme of things, they all mean the same. Whatever you call it, it's still about protecting information on devices connected to the internet. Chapter 3. Learning the lingo. The key to understanding cybersecurity is to understand the basics of the language used to talk about it. Our job is to make it as simple as possible by going through some acronyms and phrases used to describe ideas and processes in IT. A useful exercise to do here is write down each of the acronyms or phrases you hear and tick them if you already recognise them. The ones you don't tick are the ones you need to get your head around. Let's start with one we've all heard of, IT. Information technology, and this is a catch-all term for the department that many businesses will have to look after all this stuff. Different people in IT departments will have different specialities, and it's important that you also have somebody independent to make sure that work is being done properly. So, let's get stuck into some of the acronyms that apply to cybersecurity, like DLP. This stands for Data Loss Protection, and is normally software that helps to stop someone or something outside your business from getting hold of the information you store. Having good DLP is a very good start. BC and DR stand for Business Continuity and Disaster Recovery. They basically mean the same thing. Most of us will understand this as backing up information. So if there was a disaster and information got lost or stolen somehow, you'd be able to get it back and keep running your business. A really popular form of BC and DR is saving information to the cloud. This is a great way to do things, but you do need to be careful. GDPR is very specific about where personal information can be stored, so make sure you know exactly where information is, even if it is on the cloud. Next up, we have IDS and IPS, which stand for Intruder Detection System and Intruder Prevention System. Intruder detection systems look out for unusual activity around your online devices and flag up alerts with extra information you can analyse later. Intruder prevention systems try to stop attacks before they even get to you, like an online guard dog. The big challenge with these systems is keeping them up to date with the latest types of threats. Moving on, we have TLS and SSL, which, although there are technical differences between them, basically do the same thing. TLS stands for Transport Layer Security, and SSL stands for Secure Sockets Layer. TLS is basically the new version of SSL, and, in simple terms, protects information while it's moving. So, if you're sending an email, doing a VoIP call, or just browsing the web, TLS encrypts the information while it's moving from one place to another. Encrypting is basically a process that makes information unreadable for someone who doesn't have the key to unlock it. We'll come back to this. Remember then that TLS doesn't protect information when it arrives, i.e. when the email gets to the person you've sent it to, but it does protect it while it's travelling. SSL is the old standard of encryption and will be replaced by TLS as of June 30th, 2018. This actually matters to you if you take credit or debit card payments over the internet, as you'll need to be confident that your systems use a minimum of TLS 1.1 or TLS 1.2 if you can. This is to meet a standard called PCI DSS, which is the international standard for keeping online card payments safe. This next one, DDoS, is a type of attack that stands for Distributed Denial of Service. In simple terms, attacks like this send so much information to your devices and online systems that they can't cope and shut down or stop working properly. These attacks are often used to ransom organisations if they aren't well protected. They're also getting more and more common. Another threat is called malware, which is a combination of the words malicious and software, so you get the idea. Malware can be hidden in lots of places, attached to emails, inside macros within Microsoft files, and even on USB sticks that automatically infect devices when they're plugged in. A really famous piece of malware was called I Love You that turned up in emails of the same name. Attached to the emails was a file called loveletterforyou.txt.vbs that some curious people clicked on, which downloaded the virus. This particular virus destroyed system data and personal files. If you're ever in doubt about an attachment, particularly one from someone you don't know, just don't open it. It's not worth the risk. Our next term is patching. A patch is a piece of software designed to update software and improve it or fix a problem. It's often like a sewing patch over a hole in some clothes, hence the name. You'll probably have been asked by a piece of software to update it before, like from version 1.4 to version 1.5. These patches are often in response to new malware, so staying on top of them is a really important part of cybersecurity. The technical name for it is patch management strategy. Now, we've all heard of and used passwords on computer systems. They're a good start, but they're pretty easy to get around if you're that way inclined. Once they're past a password, a hacker can use tools to remotely start up your computer and access everything on it. It's like having a thin case around a precious jewel. Better than nothing, but easy to break if you really want to steal the jewel. The far more secure approach to protecting information is encryption, which we briefly met earlier. A good way to think about it is changing the language information is written in so other people can't understand it without having a translator. This translator is called a decryption key and reverts the information back into its original language. This is far safer than passwords alone and far more appropriate for the information you keep in your business. The GDPR law actually recommends it. Chapter 4. The people factor. People are just as important as systems and software when it comes to cybersecurity. With laws like GDPR coming in, business leaders need to inform and empower people to take cybersecurity seriously. Just doing the bare minimum isn't good enough anymore, and businesses now have to strike a balance between being profitable and being safe online. If you're a business owner or manager, it's your job to understand some of the risks we've talked about in this video. If you're an employee, it's your job to work alongside management to make sure the whole company is safe and compliant to these new laws. Too often, it takes something big going wrong before a culture changes. This is your chance, right now to bring in a culture that takes cybersecurity seriously. Any decent cybersecurity professional will tell you there is no such thing as 100% secure, but we have to do what we can. Simple things include ensuring lots of the systems we discussed in the last section, like patch management or having IDS and IPS systems, are in place. Even more straightforward are things like appropriately locking computers, not letting people you don't know look at your work, controlling who has access to sensitive data, and reporting anything you don't feel is right. IT departments need to be well trained, but everyone in a business can and should contribute to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a huge part of modern business, and it isn't going away. Laws like GDPR make this a serious issue. Fines of up to €20 million, or 4% of turnover, are being threatened for those that ignore it. Chapter 5. The threats. We need to take all this seriously, but what threats should we be looking out for? A threat in this sense is anything that could put information at risk, such as people attacking your assets from the outside to get hold of information, unauthorized access to systems, destruction of information or the devices that hold it, the disclosure or leaking of personal or company information, personal or company information being changed incorrectly, systems being shut down, such as through a DDoS attack. When we look at these threats, we need to consider how at risk we are to them, or our vulnerability. Vulnerabilities could include lack of antivirus software, weak passwords, unlocked doors where computers are kept, malware or exploits, specific pieces of software that take advantage of these vulnerabilities, power outages, intruders, both physically and those hacking into systems from the outside, natural disasters such as floods or earthquakes. Being aware of threats and vulnerabilities is the starting point of good cybersecurity.